Bandwidth for First Updates Now is supported by the Blue Alliance. Keep up to date on all live and archived First Robotics events and team stats at thebluealliance.com.
People are interested.
But you know what? If you send me an email, you'll get a response, and it will be from me.
And I really don't have any desire to.
You haven't watched the trailer at all?
No.
A lot of people haven't heard of the couch division, so
It's a comfy division to be in, though.
it's super comfy. It's almost too comfy at times.
Your response to teams who see that as a new potential issue with districts?
Yeah, that's really a two-pronged question.
Let's see if there's any damage from that fall. There was. They snapped 330. Still on their back. 6 seconds to go.
4 was the highest ranked, but then as votes continue to pour in, everything kind of changed around a little bit. So we forget to go back.
First Updates Now is brought to you by Twitch. Fun is now a Twitch partner and offering some awesome subscriber-only benefits. Subscribe today or get a free subscription each month when you have Amazon Prime by linking your account and clicking subscribe.
Welcome, everyone, to our third and not unplagued with technical difficulties wonderful third episode of First Help Now, where we're here to help answer your questions to improve your FRC team. I'm your host, Libby Kamen from FRC 1923, The Midnight Inventors in New Jersey. And joining me is our co-host, Mike Heinlich from 3132 Thunder Down Under from Australia. Mike, how is it going down in Australia today?
It's still going really well, Libby. Just trying to finish off build season here. Hopefully the weather holds out for us. Not a lot of our places are air conditioned, so it can get a little hot in the summertime, but I think we'll be all right.
All right, good. So in First Help Now, we're going to start out with, first of all, that scared me. Sorry, Tyler, I'm the worst, because that was a little bit broken. Yes. Sorry. When you break your script, you're not very good at hosting. Mike, why don't you cover for me and introduce our guest for today's show?
Today we're going to have a really fun show, everybody. So let's just go with the flow and have a good time. We'll answer some questions as we go along. But the theme today is fun. And along that theme is a good friend of mine, Michael Light from Team 1403 Cougar Robotics. Mike has taught me a lot in FRC over the years, and I'm really glad that he could be on the show. Mike started with FIRST in 2004. He's a recipient of a FIRST scholarship, apply. And he now serves as the lead technical mentor and coach for 1403. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks for having me. Apply. Scholarships, it was easy. You just apply, and I won actually 2 scholarships, one to Clarkson and one to Daniel Webster, but went to Daniel Webster. But thanks for having me.
Yeah,
well,
anytime.
Yeah, I was just going to say, with regard to Mike choosing the scholarships that he did, I can say that the impact that he had on the kids he got to work with after he took the scholarship, I can easily say was probably bigger than the impact that the scholarship had on Mike. So for those of you applying for scholarships, if you can continue working in FIRST, it's a huge benefit to the program around the world.
Absolutely. I'm a scholarship recipient myself, actually, at Clarkson as well. And I actually went there. And it's a wonderful program. So now that we've actually gotten started, it's time to take questions submitted by Fun Nation and to First Help Now. Please keep in mind as we answer these questions that First Help Now is not the official Q&A. Make sure you do your research into making smart decisions for your team and legal decisions for your team. If you are interested in calling in or submitting your question, send an email to frchelpnow@gmail.com. We're also going to answer questions from our live audience, so tag at First Updates Now with your question in the chat, and we will get to some at the end of the show.
All right, and we're delighted that we're going to go live to somebody who's chimed in. We have a couple callers today. Our first one is Brockton from Team 6554, Phoenix Robotics out of California. Let's bring him on.
Brockton, welcome to First Help Now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself on 6554 and tell us about your question for the day?
Sure. We're a rookie team. We just started. kind of lost a little bit, kind of figuring out we almost got a robot done. I'm actually the team captain on the team. And basically the question that we were wondering is, because we don't have a practice bot, what can we do in order to prepare for our week 4 competition? What are some things that we could do to like maybe help the function of the robot or even the function of the team?
All right. Mike, why don't we let you start as our guest?
One thing, being a drive coach, and I've actually drove when I was on the team on 303. The big thing is trying to find an RC car, a Vex robot, an FTC robot, or even EV3 Lego. My driver just told me that he worked on tank drive through that. If you can get some kind of robot that you can drive and get the muscle memory down, that'll be a big help. So when you're driving, you're not looking down going, how do I turn left? How do I turn right? More of where do I need to go, and having that built in. That's going to be big for you. And if you can get a couple of these RC cars, go one-on-one, have the drive coach or your drivers go back against each other so they can figure out how to spin in and out of defense or how to play defense. I know last year with my driver, we did two robots and 2 square Vex bots, and we had these little wooden objects we use for outreach events, and we just said, if you push it to your side, it's a point. You push it to my side, it's a point, and we just played. And he picked up a lot from that. And just try and get as close as you can to the actual competition and pressure to build it into them that you're going to be under pressure and you need to not let it get to you.
Okay.
So,
I guess one of the other things you can do is you said you were going to be playing in week 4, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got 3 weeks of competitions that you could watch on the Blue Alliance or other outlets. You guys can do practice scouting, get your scouting team up and going and have them checking out the game, watch how the game evolves over the first 3 weeks, and start figuring out how you're going to use those RC cars that Mike talked about to put those strategies or things that you're seeing into practice by watching what other folks are doing the first few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. I think those are 2 really helpful things. Actually, oh God, I was going to say Mike. To Michael's point, I'm just going to say Mike and Michael. To Michael's point, one of our students a couple years ago, as an operator, so doing the mechanisms, without any prompting from anyone, if you got anyone who's likes fun little code projects, they made a program on the computer that was basically fake coach instructions. So up on the screen it would print like release, pickup, something else. It would, whatever it was. And if he pressed the right button on the controller in the right response time, it like gave him an M&M out of like a Lego thing that he made. But he basically trained himself to be a quicker responding operator with his own little code tweaks. Yeah, and definitely scouting, especially if there's a regional or an event, like you're in California, if there's an event in your area or that you might share teams with that's happening prior to week 4, go check it out. See either online or in person if you can. See how the teams you might play with are going to end up playing, and seeing that game early on and keeping an eye on strategic analysis throughout the season will really help, so that when you get there, it's not like, oh God, I've never actually seen a match played all the way through. So that's definitely super, super helpful. But as a rookie, I have to ask, how's your robot going? Are you excited? Like I love rookie stories. I hope everything's going well for you guys.
It's been going pretty well. Today we accidentally deleted our entire robot code.
Yikes.
So we're trying to recover that and get that running, and then trying to figure out how to use absolute encoders for our drivetrain, which you heard was possible, but then Chief Delphi says it's not. So it's been up and downs, but we're not looking too shabby. We're more than just a drive base this year, so that's going to be good.
We're
happy for that.
Wonderful. I'm very excited to see how you guys go. So let's, everybody at home, make sure that you check out 6554 on TBA after they compete. Cheer them on.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's take another call before we get to our submitted questions. Our next caller is Zach. Oh, yeah. Before I do that, I want to really thank Brockton for coming on, and we want to wish 6554 all the best in bagging and in preparing with the 4 weeks they have up to their event. So now let's take another call. pretty excited about the callers coming in. Let's take another call from Zach Spencer from 2137 of Torque out of Michigan.
So while we're waiting for our caller to get patched in, I do want to remind everyone that Premiere Night is just around the corner. Come be a part of a huge event here on the First Updates Now channel by having your team submit a 90-second or less reveal video by next Wednesday. Last year, there were 49 teams that submitted, and we expect around 20,000 views this year. So if you want people to have eyes on your robot, make sure that you get your video on Premiere Night. To submit, you're going to go to firstupdatesnow.com and click Premiere Night. So don't forget to watch on Saturday, the 25th, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. Premiere Night's always so much fun. I always have a good time with it. It's really nice to see what other teams have come up with. You know, you feel like throughout the season, you're like, oh yeah, we know what everyone's going to do. There's going to be this type of robot, that's it. Premiere Night's always fun because you can see a lot of different stuff. I get a little bit overwhelmed by the dubstep and lights, but submit to Premiere Night. Prove me wrong that it's going to be a little bit less dubstep and lights this year. So we have Zach, and Zach, welcome to First Help Now. Zach, can you hear us?
Yep.
All right. So tell us a little about what you do on 2137 and what's your question for today?
Yeah, so on 2137, this is my 4th year. I'm a senior this year. I am our mechanical advisor, so I lead our mechanical team and help our other junior mechanical leads out and teaching them of how the build process works and how to advise the team.
Okay, so tell me about your question for First Help Now.
Yeah, so my question was whether later on in the season, like last year was the boulder count went up to take down the tower, whether those preset gears will disappear from the airship and whether that'll change strategy throughout the game.
Yeah, so similar to the way that they increased the tower count last year, that they are able to change the amount of preset gears throughout the season and how that's going to change strategy. So again, we'll let Michael go first as our honored guest. Go for it.
I guess taking it from past experiences of them changing the game, I think to district championships and probably world championships, they're going to change it depending on how quickly teams get to the task. I know we've had, some trying to do everything and fit everything into, our robot and making sure that it works. It's going to be, kind of a steep curve of the first couple weeks. I think it's going to be, people that just went simple, a gear hanger and a robot hanger, if they got that down and spent 2 weeks, driving and practicing, that's going to take over competition. But once kind of people get their mechanisms firing on all cylinders, you'll see it kind of curve to, the fuel taking over. But I think once people get, a fast cycle time down and get the real strategy, then I think they'll start taking gears off the airship.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I know, if I remember correctly, and this could point to me not being right, but didn't they say it's specifically at like district champs in the championship level as they have in previous years? So it's really only at that what they've determined is like those high levels of play. And I think it's more than changing strategy. I think it'll bring it closer to like, instead of seeing all of the gears and all of the rotors done, snap, 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 and now we're bored for the rest of the match, or like Michael was saying, like that fuel will come into play a lot more, rather than changing the weight of those over time at a high level of play where you see people working with the gears as experts, that you'll actually see the game kind of shift back to kind of a true like competition. It is a race to get those gears. So I don't necessarily think it's going to change. Like obviously it changes how many gears you need. That's what it changes about your strategy. But I don't think as the robots get better and better and better, that you're not going to see like, oh, well, they changed the gear amount and now they're not making it. It's really going to be now they're not overdoing it, I think, is what's going to happen there.
Yeah. So, I guess along those lines, I sort of have a different way of looking at this. I think First got it wrong the first time through here in terms of the balance between gears and fuel. I think in teleop, the point value for getting fuel is way undervalued. And I think that's driving behavior in terms of strategies much more towards gears. So we will see during the season a lot more emphasis on gears. I don't know I don't know whether we're ever going to get to the right level of the game for First to want to rebalance that. Because again, in my opinion, I thought they should have valued the fuel a little higher than they did. And it's really overdriving that gear behavior. So I don't know how they, in my opinion, I don't know how they redress that balance, but I think there's a lot of gear happy teams and strategies out there right now with an underemphasis on shooting simply because of this. And once we get to that level of play or that understanding of how to do all those gears, I don't know how the game is going to be able to evolve when so many teams, I'll say in terms of middle level capability, have given up on shooting because there's no incentive as the game was announced. So maybe in years past, you would have had teams invest a little bit more in the shooting. The way the game is advertised right now, it's hard to justify it.
Oh, for sure.
Counter that, I think with your with the fuel, it adds another little bit of complexity of kind of the mid, like our team is not an upper echelon team. It's kind of in the middle of things, where, we looked at the gear, we looked at a hanger, and we're like, okay, those are, fairly simple things with the Robot in 3 days teams, giving you a pretty good head start. The fuel was like, okay, maybe we could take on fuel during this, build season and utilize it more instead of just saying, okay, we're going to get a robot done in 4 weeks with just a hanger and a gear holder. So we added another level of complexity so that we can focus on the fuel as well.
Yeah, but that's sort of my point, Mike, is that you guys had to think of it as after the gear, right? It wasn't part of the integrated thinking because of that imbalance, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're totally right there, where they didn't incentivize enough for people to think of fuel as their main thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, did that answer your question, Zach?
Yeah, I think it did.
Okay. And could you give us a little update on the robot status for Torque? How you guys doing?
Yeah, so it's been a pretty interesting build season for us. This is the first year we haven't, because we build twins every year. So we build our practice spot and we build our competition robot. So this is actually the first year we haven't completed our first robot before the start of week 6. But it's going good. We're getting there, and we'll have both of them done eventually.
So if we're looking for Torque's robot, which events should we tune into?
So we will be at Southfield week 1, Waterford week 3, and hopefully district championship in Michigan later on in the season, week 7.
All right. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah,
Yep,
good luck.
awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us, Zach.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's continue with some questions that were submitted to First Help Now.
So we've heard from a couple different teams about veteran students who really wanted a specific competition role, but didn't get it. This could lead to scout or pit crew type positions. But the question that got asked, or a few questions that we've seen on the First Help Now line, is what can you do to keep them engaged? These are the students who wanted specific roles and didn't get them. After that, they may become a little bit disenfranchised. How do you keep them engaged when they don't get their desired position? Any thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah. I'd say give them tell them to take a smaller role. Go with, if it's a pit crew or not lead pit crew, but still in the pit or, scouting, have them still there, work on, a smaller job, but maybe they'll work their way from competition to competition. If you're going to, in districts, we have, 2 or 3 competitions, maybe by district champs or even the second competition, they can prove themselves to be promoted and, see where things go, as well as if that's not an option and the person above them is doing a great, equal or greater job, then have him train underclassmen and, people coming up that he has, he or she have all this wisdom and knowledge that they can, deliver to the underclassmen or teach the underclassmen, during a competition. It's a lot to take in, and, to have somebody, that knows what they're doing to give you information is, really big for helping kind of the lineage of your team go on.
Yeah, for sure. I think you and I kind of tackle it similar ways on our teams. Is, there might be a student who wants a role or is really jazzed about it, like they want to be on pit crew, but maybe they're not quite all the way there. We basically tell our students the way that our selection system works is, if you've got potential and you think we're not seeing it, talk to us. Talk to us about it. We'll sit down and say, hey, I know you really wanted lead scout. We didn't pick you for this event because X, Y, and Z. And it's, a fair, when they get to the real world and they get to work, it's going to be a performance assessment. And I really like the idea of an older student kind of passing it down. And that can even work for the person who maybe didn't get the role, but is still very, very talented. For example, you're second in command for pit crew. Like if you picked Jimmy because Jimmy is 100% here and Sally was like 99%, but you didn't pick her because Jimmy was 100. Sally can go train other people to do that. I think that's a really good point. Just because you aren't the lead, if you have knowledge and you have skill, there's a way to pass that along to other students on the team that really benefits everybody. And, it might be really special to say, I'm the leader, I'm the pit crew, I'm this, but you can still have a really, really measurable impact by the value you bring without a title. I think that's really important to remember sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's, this is definitely where mentoring comes in. And, for me, it's always a bit sad to see the disappointment in a student's eyes when they don't get the role that they wanted. But it's always, the flip side is always being able to get them there later on. We've had students who we've, for a couple of years in a row, tried to make the drive team, for example, and just fell short. And you sit down with them and you explain to them, look, there's skills that you need and there's performance that you have to demonstrate. And, we're happy to show you where you're falling down and why you didn't get to the position you wanted. Let's put a plan together that gets you both of those things. So on the capability side or the knowledge side, it's often really easy. On the performance side, I think it's harder to find opportunities to allow students to demonstrate that they can do the job. And that's where off-season events come in. That's where FTC or VEX comes in. You can put students under game day sort of situations and help them develop the skills. We talk a lot on our team about temperament. We want students to have a certain way that they approach on field and off field during the game. And it's really hard to tutor them or mentor them on that without those real world situations. So like I said, off-season events, VEX and FTC form a really valuable role in that regard.
Absolutely. So our next question to First Help Now has come in quite a lot, and it's regards to the Robo Rio. So it seems like teams this year are having a lot of issue getting the imaging done. And to either of you, I'm going to let Michael go first. Talk about walking through the process. I'll admit this is not my expertise either, so I'd love to learn from you guys.
I'm going to have to pass down to Mike because I'm more mechanical. And every time Mike and I talk, he's always talking about this side of things. So Mike,
I did software when Mike was doing mech on 2342. So and that was when the C Rio was first introduced. We had C++. And we had the rudimentary WPI lib where the documentation, the code was scanty and the documentation was even less. So we've come a really long way. And my hat's off to the guys at WPI. They've done a fantastic job. We send the rookies and even second-year teams over to the screen steps, and it's exhaustive. One of the things that they've done is they've broken things down into bite-sized chunks that make it, I'll say, really easy and very fulfilling for a student to step through. They feel like they accomplish something one step at a time. But when teachers or new mentors or even seasoned pros look at that list, it's daunting. There's got to be 17 different things down that list that you have to go through. And if that's the first thing you see, it's really scary. But when you press into each one is easy. Each one is bite-sized. It's verifiable. You can validate that you did it correctly. So the guys at WPI have done a great job in that regard. I don't know how you get people to not freak out when they see this thing, but my guess is that's where a lot of this comes from, is they see this exhaustive list and just go, wow, I can't handle this. But if you stick with it and you coach people through it, it can be done, and it can be done in a very repeatable way.
So what you're saying is there's hope for me to understand this through the Screen Steps program. Even I can figure it out. That gives me a lot of hope.
I'll say it this way: even Michael Light can figure it out.
All right.
I don't want to.
We'll leave that for other folks.
We have
That's
a programming
okay.
team for that.
Yeah, but so besides just I don't want to say suck it up. That's the wrong attitude. But the guys at WPI have done a yeoman's effort. This thing is fantastic compared to where we've been. This is the best it's ever been, and I think just people have to slow down and take it one step at a time and follow the instructions. There are a couple potential pitfalls that we found. One of them is if you happen to hook up the Rio to your school network and you have some firewalls up, that will sometimes create a problem. But aside from that, this is a really good, solid procedure, and you just need to follow it and stick with it.
All right, yeah,
So I hope that answers the question for the community.
Sounds solid enough for me, for sure.
All right. Last week we had questions about what supplies to bring to a competition, like spare parts, what have you. We talked a little bit about the withholding allowance as well. This week you'd like to explore the other stuff that goes into your pit area. And so, Mike, on the Cougar side, what are the must-haves? And when you're packing up the shop and heading out to the divisional competition, what do you make sure is on the trailer?
So to start with it, we treat, and I tell our students this all the time, is treat the pit like a trade show, like it's real world experience. One little quick story is I went to a mining expo in Las Vegas for work, and when I'd walk into the expo hall, I kept going to my head to pull the safety glasses down, and they weren't there because it felt like a robotics competition. So
I just did that at an event too this weekend.
So these pits are like trade shows. You put your booth or pit up. We have a backdrop. We have owner's manuals, standards, what we do for chairmans, books, thick, like 4 books that lay on the table when the robot's not there. Just as much information as we can, provide for the judges, or as we call it, your customer, why are they going to invest in your product or your robot as, the judges or a customer. So that's how we, tell the students to present our robot and what's the best features and what makes our robot more, more pleasing and appealing to the judges than, anybody else in the pit. And then tools, laptops, and then buttons. Buttons are a big one.
They go like crazy. No, I really like the way that you put that, where you're selling your team. What, even trade show, customer, whatever terms you want to use, your pit is your between 8 and 10 foot square space to explain to everyone why your team is so great. And no one knows your team on the inside. You do. And you have to put your team out there in a way that represents who you are. And if that means you have like a crazy castle for a pit and like you have all sorts of stuff, that's you. If it means clean lines, empty tables, like engineering workshop area, that's cool too. Whatever your team can execute in a way that represents who you are and the quality of robot and the quality of team that you are, I think really helps. Ours is very similar actually to 1403's. We've got truss, table, technical documentation. We've got that kind of outreach documentation. We've got like a little TV with a slideshow about all of our stats and fun stuff. My biggest thing for teams is that making sure that you have the ability to make your pit look clean. And I don't mean like there's no dust on the floor. I mean, if you've got a PVC pit structure, that it's painted in a way that's crisp. There's not scratches and dents and gouges, because what that tells someone is that the display stuff doesn't matter to you. And so it's exactly that, like you're saying, Mike, treat it like a trade show. You come out, you put your best foot forward. People, spectators, judges, other teams are going to, judge is the wrong word, but they're going to perceive something about your team based on the way that your pit is presented. So decide how you want to look and look that way. That's really my biggest tip.
And one little thing to note in there is if you do set up the pit and you set up, like a backdrop as our team does, it helps further on, maybe not in college, but in the real world when, you're at a job and somebody's like, well, do you know how to set up a backdrop? And you're like, yeah. And they go, well, you're going to go to the trade show. And then, a fun experience there. So
you
it's
get
more.
to travel.
Yeah, exactly. You get to travel and represent, and you're a better asset to a company that you may work for. So that's, big, what we try to instill is we're not, they go to college to learn what college is going to teach them, but we want to give them skills past college and in the real world. So.
Yeah, I guess I can't add anything. You guys did a fantastic job. The one direction I'd like to take this conversation in, though, is we recently got an update just 2-3 days ago from FIRST that international teams will not be provided batteries when they come to an event, regardless of where they are. So the teams that come to Australia from Singapore, Taiwan, China won't be getting batteries from FIRST. Same thing in the U.S. Teams coming from the U.K., Turkey, wherever, aren't going to get batteries. So I'd like to ask all teams out there listening to check your regional, see if you have some international teams, and think about what supplies you would bring to help them out, knowing that they have weight limits, and they might be even with the reduction in the number of robot transport exemptions, they may be checking their robot as luggage and not being able to bring any tools at all. So whatever the FRC community can do to support international teams at any event, I'd really like to ask folks to take care of that.
That's incredibly disappointing and sad. And I would extend it when the minute you qualify for champs, if you're a US and you'll be able to get their ground-based team, think about the teams that you can bring extras for, not cheesecake, tools, batteries, stuff that would help them. That would be helpful. I feel for those teams. So let's try to make their regionals, their championship, the best that we can. So with all of our submitted questions through, let's take a couple of minutes to address questions from our live chat. So if you've got any more questions to throw in there, get them in now. We're going to start with Jacob Lou 123, who says, I didn't see anything in the rules that prevents a team from completely switching robots during unbagged time, specifically referring to districts. And I can see something that says you can't. It is that lovely withholding allowance. Whatever you do during bag is going to count towards that 30 pounds. Remember that's incredibly important. And yes, that is on the honor system, but it's up to teams to be that honorable, gracious team. And just don't be that team. Like there are rules. Please follow them. I don't know if you guys want to add to that, but
yeah, I want to jump in here. Yeah, no, well, there's actually a rule. I think it's CO4 is the rule number, and it basically gives the robot inspectors and the regional director and the people running the tournament some broad latitude in determining when and if this might happen. There was an incident occurred, I think it's about 8 or 9 years ago, where somebody brought their practice robot in and wanted to play both robots, and I think this is where that rule came from. And the idea is that the spirit of FRC is that you build one robot, you bag one robot, you play with one robot. The withholding allowance is there to bring in upgrades and to make some really important fixes. But the whole spirit and tenor of the competition is you build one robot during build season. That's what you stick with. You're free to modify it and upgrade it, but it's the one robot. And C04, I believe, is that rule.
That sounds about correct. But to be fair, that it doesn't mean that you can't switch things out at events. You can bring in 30 pounds of, like, I can't even remember who it was. I'm like 80%. I'm not even going to claim it because I don't want to name the wrong team. But there was a team, I think 2 or 3 years ago, that every event it was like, oh, we switched out the intake. Next event, oh, we switched out the shooter. Like every piece can switch and evolve over time. That is not illegal. You can do it practice day. You can do it load-in day. You can do it when you're allowed to be out of the bag. Switching your entire robot during your unbagged time is not appropriate, and I would call as very against the gracious professionalism rules, the honor system, the tenets of FIRST, whatever you want to call it. So the next question, and again, this is where I'm going to hands off as a mechanical and a strategic person, is having issues with LabVIEW code. They're attempting to implement code that reverses directional inputs to the robot while pressing one of the buttons. How would we do this? I see an answer in chat, unless one of you guys want to take it.
Nope.
Yeah, no, go ahead to the chat.
Yeah, so the chat, has scrolled past me since, but it was something like, when that button is toggled, assign a multiplier to that joystick input of -1. So flip it while while this button is pressed, flip the inputs, is basically what that answer was. And I would happily point you towards further help with the First Help Noah online program, where you can actually get a LabVIEW expert. This panel up here is not quite up to spec on programming, but thank you, producer Tyler, for finding the answer and copying it for me. Jamie Sin answered your question with pseudocode. When the button is pressed, toggle a Boolean and apply a multiplier of -1 to those joysticks. So that's that.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Jamie, for answering for us, because I'm not a programmer. And then our last chat question at the moment. Don't laugh at me.
No, Mike's face.
Okay. It's okay. So the last question is a little bit sarcastic, and it is from Caltran2410, and it is my paracord legal for rope? And that is a reference to today's chief post by a team that asked that exact question 5 days before build. Or before stop build, rather. So the I guess the true answer for that is go look at the definition of a rope in the manual, examine the spec sheet for the thing you would like to buy, compare, contrast. But also at this point in the season, get your rope figured out, please.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit late in the game to be playing with ropes, but yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, we do have one more question in the chat, and I'll let you guys take this.
Okay. How does?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sometimes you got to love your producer for cutting and pasting. How does one create a bot that will win Einstein no matter what?
No matter what, guys. What are we
hey,
doing?
Hey, Mike, you want to take that one?
I've like looked at the strategy over and over, and there's no 469, 71 like chokehold strategy this year. It's just going to come down to cycle time, and just, playing smart and playing your game and not deviating from it, going from there, being confident in it. And I guess the big thing would be making sure to test your bot over and over and over and over again. I tried to drill it into my team this year of how many balls are you shooting during a match? If you're shooting high, you're shooting about 120, right? So if we shot, 1,000 balls, are we even near one competition? No. So keep shooting. So you know how your wheel will wear, how, your motors will hold up, if anything will break, or how fast you can do this without, but just knowing your robot inside and out and being able to know when something needs to get changed or something needs to get cleaned or anything else with that. So.
Yeah, the consistency, and to add to that, even when it does break, and this is maybe, Brockton, if you're still around from 6554, one of the things about preparing, we talked about this a little bit last week, but if you know that there's a shelf life on your shooter or your intake, have spares. Whether it's COTS ready to go for spares and you start assembling it when you get there, or you've got a box full of extra intakes, whatever it is, know your consistency, know when to just rip it out and replace it and then go back to that consistency. It's you nailed it, is know your robot, know what your match is going to be, and just be super, super consistent. Yep, we have one more question. Thank you, chat, for adding to it. And this is from Microbuns, and his question is, without a fully featured practice field, how does a team get their human players / pilots useful practice? And human player, depending on your human player's role, is a little bit easier than pilot, because you can have that at-home stand. But I'm curious if you guys have anything for your pilots to get human player practice or pilot practice.
Yeah, I don't think it takes a practice field. I think you just need the team elements built that the CADs were provided for, and to the points that you guys were making just now and with 6554, practice, right? Get a stopwatch on it. You don't once your robot's in the bag, you can have somebody pretend they're the robot, go put the gear on the spring and see how quickly and consistently you can get it up and placed. So I don't think there's any magic. It's just getting that muscle memory that Mike talked about before built into your human player and your pilot the same way you have into your driver and operator.
Yeah, I think the question that they were really leading to is that, for example, the home team drawing of the peg is not a lift. So how do you actually practice that? And that's something that I think was, I gaping hole in the drawings is there was no lift, there was no drawing for like a safe pilot platform. And I don't have an answer for this other than we figured out that the lift was the height of our shop tables, and our pilot stands on our shop table and pulls it up. Like,
exactly.
That's
my point. Exactly. Yeah, you make do. You figure it out, and you put your people in those positions and let them try.
Or their first day of competition, have them go over the field, and they don't leave until they have it just solid. Have them go over to the practice field, or and just keep working at it till it becomes fluid, and they have it comes second nature of placing a gear somewhere.
Yeah, so I know, Mike, you and I are going to be doing practice matches together so that our human players can get practice at our first event. It'll be great. Anyway, that'll be it for today's show, Fun Nation. Mike from 1403 Cougar Robotics, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Problem. My pleasure.
How is your robot coming, and where can people find more on 1403?
Robot's getting there slowly. Hopefully today or tomorrow or Saturday we'll have everything bolted and functioning. There's a few things that were I designed that were under designed, so they're wrenching, but a few bolts and thicker material will help. We're at cougarrobotics.com, and then we also host a district event, Montgomery District. We're looking for volunteers, so if anybody wants to come, sign up through VIMS, and we're always looking for volunteers to help run the event. So
as a team that competes there, we love it. They hosted Monty Madness for 10 years and then turned it into a district, and it's an awesome competition. So if you're in the Mar region or even close, come and volunteer. Have to say it's great. So Mike Heimlich, great job co-hosting with me. Glad to finally get to see you and work through all of the tech difficulties, not being in a Panera Bread on my phone. So now that we're in our real hosting situation, tell me a little bit more about what you guys have going on in First Australia.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of rookie teams trying to finish up and rush into bag. Got a lot of questions about how to connect motors up to interesting things, and a lot of learning about gearboxes, surprisingly, in the last few minutes. But I want to give a plug for 4613's Week 0 event this weekend, and there'll be a live stream. So if you want to see robots from Australia, check it out.
All right, excellent. I will have to we'll have to check. Is there a Twitch channel for the live stream, or will you be posting it when we get closer?
Yeah, we'll be posting it. It'll be. I think it's on Sunday, so we'll make sure that it's posted and everybody in the community gets to it. I'm sure it'll be up on Chief Delphi. Worst case, I would say check 4613 Redback Barker Robotics Facebook page.
Okay, so we are going to take a chance to thank everyone who has become a fan or a member of Fun Nation, but I'm going to pass that off to Tyler.
Yeah, joining Fun, being members of Fun Nation, joining the Fun crew, we'd like to thank the Mighty Brock for subscribing to us and being our newest member of Fun Nation, as well as following us, being a fan of Fun Nation, Sturm Kaiser, That Random Guy 19, Dylan Bird 21, Microbuns, and Dirt Biker XZ, Dirt Bikers, I should say. Thank you so much for subscribing and following to our channel. We really appreciate it, and thank you for helping make First Updates Now possible.
So don't forget, if you want to help make First Help Now and all of Fun's shows possible, you can follow us under First Updates Now. Fun just received Twitch partnership, and so we're going to have some awesome benefits for our sub. I'm a sub. You get a cool badge next to your name, some cool emotes. It's going to be great. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to Fun for free each month to get the latest on First Robotics. And I just want to do one last reminder that premiere night is right around the corner. If you want to be a part of it, submissions are due Wednesday, and the premiere night show will be on the 25th. I'm sorry, next Wednesday, not too soon, but soon. So get your dubstep and your lights ready. You can find out more on Chief and on the First Updates Now website. We've also got t-shirts available on the website thanks to Two Pencil Designs at firstupdatesnow.com. And I want to thank again and again and again our producer Tyler Olds, working behind the scenes, doing a great job presenting the show. Tyler, do you have a special announcement for us, I hear?
Yeah, actually, we do have a special announcement for our subscribers coming up. So we've been kind of alluding to a big announcement that we're going to be doing on premiere night. But for our subscribers, you're actually going to get a sneak peek for that. So we're going to be emailing all of our subscribers with a special link on Saturday they can kind of get a sneak peek of what we're doing. It's not going to be a full-fledged thing of what we're doing, but for subscribers only, there will be a Twitch link on a different Twitch account, and you can get a sneak peek as we start beta testing what our huge announcement's going to be. And we'll trust all of our subscribers to keep that quiet until we're ready to announce the premiere night. But we want to give our subscribers a little bit extra benefit and sneak peek and really thank them for subscribing to us.
So if you're a sub or if you want to be a sub, you can get some exclusive stuff from First Updates now. So the next show on Fun will be Candidly Speaking on Monday. So on behalf of myself, Mike, and Tyler, I would like to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you again to Alternative Mike for being our guest. And thank you to all of our moderators in chat. We will see you guys next time on Fun, and we'll talk to you then.
This has been a First Updates Now production. Visit us at firstupdatesnow.com or find us under First Updates Now on Facebook or Twitter.